Hello and welcome to this week's episode of What Women Want Today podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I am being joined today by Robin. This was actually an Instagram live that was recorded a few months back. Robin and I had a really fun conversation, and actually a very vulnerable and genuine conversation about marriage in midlife, actually remarriage in midlife. We talked about the difference between wanting and needing a partner. We talked about how menopause affects marriage. We talk about weight gain and sex drive. And we talk about blending families and the impact of stress on marriage and midlife. So I'm so glad you're here today. Let's go ahead and join that conversation now. Sometimes there's just a little bit of a glitch at the beginning. No worries.
Okay. This is my first ever Instagram live, just so you know.
Well, you know what they say about first times. So I want to just touch real quick on the funny story of our relationship, because technically you are my aunt, which is hilarious.
Especially since I'm an only child. Even...
Well, so my husband and your husband are nephew and uncle.
Correct.
Because my husband's mom and your husband, brother and sister, are like lots of years apart. I don't even know how many years it is. Do you know how many years it is?
I think it's like 13 or 17.
It's quite a bit. So
yeah,
that is how I became to have an aunt that is just a couple of years older than me. And you know what's really funny about our relationship, and which is one of my favorite things about it, and why I love you so much, is because we've only met in person a few times.
I know.
But whenever we get together, it's one of those relationships where it was just easy and picks right off where we left off every single time. I got goosebumps. We were at my stepson's wedding a couple weekends ago, and we had a chance to catch up, and I thought it would be so fun to have you come on and join me today. And I thought we would talk about remarriage in midlife, because you and Shannon, I think if I remember the story right, you knew each other like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then reconnected. So tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, hold on. I have to say hi to Allie. Oh my gosh, I just see one of my good friends on.
Yeah, welcome everybody.
Oh, I love you too, Allie. So mine is Shannon's story. So yeah, we knew each other in junior high. I was in junior high. He was in high school, and life happened, and he joined the service. I went to college. He had these grand plans of coming back for me. Of course, he never communicated that to me. But anyway, 25 years later, we're both divorced and back in each other's lives. We saw each other at a class reunion, and we both. But the funny thing is, both of us said at that time, hey, just want to let you know we can be friends. It's nice to see you again, but I am never getting married again. I had been married twice, divorced twice, and he had been married once for I think like 19 years, and he too said, I'm never getting married again. And so anyway, we both laid those ground rules up front that we could be friendly, but we were never getting married again, and here we are.
Yeah, how many years later was that? Like from when you guys reconnected to the time you actually got married?
Yeah, so 2 years, and we've been married 10. So.
And do you remember how old you were when you guys reconnected?
So yeah, 40.
40. Okay. Yeah, I find it really interesting. When I got divorced, you know what? And I talk to a lot of women going through menopause, and I get this common theme from a lot of women, especially if they are like in the midst of the worst parts of perimenopause. I'll say perimenopause, is they sort of get this like feeling like, don't really need to be with a man. Rather just be by myself. I don't need to do all that again, especially if they've already done it once. And you and I have that in common. Like I had been married twice before as well. And so a lot of women are like, nah. And you and Shannon said that to each other. So what made you change your mind?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it was any one thing. I think it wasn't as much about, uh, let me just say what's on my heart. And that is, at that point in time in your life, at least for mine, I really saw men as more of just another headache to have to deal with, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I didn't need a man. And so
Right, because you had a very successful career. You still do. But back then, you were kind of like in the heyday of your carear, right? Was
yeah,
that what you were working?
I honestly felt like what good is a man? And having been through the 2 relationships that I had, and like you said, I had a great career. I had 4 kids. And to be honest, being a single mom, it was kind of easy to take care of myself, do my job, take care of my kids, and not really have the added complexity and responsibility of being a wife.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of looked at it that I don't really need a man. Mm-hmm. And just the hassle of having, and
yeah,
so
I get it. I get it.
How I approached it.
And I feel like, and this is a very generalized statement, but we're just having some girlfriend talk here. So just the 2 of us. So I feel like men kind of need us more than we need them in this part of life in some ways. And Brian, a wonderful husband, but the man could not take care of himself. He left for work this morning and stopped to chat with a neighbor. And I could see his truck down at the end of the road. And I don't know, he's probably sitting there 10 minutes or so. And then a few minutes after he drove off, I get this phone call. And he says, oh, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just still sitting in the same spot enjoying my coffee. And he says, I need you to do me a favor. I said, sure. And he's like, yeah, I drove away and left the tailgate of my truck down. So I had like 4 gas cans on the back of it and they fell off somewhere. So I was hoping you could drive down the road and find them for me. And I said, how do you get through life? It's just funny. I think, we're so used to, like you said, it's a single mom. I had 4 kids too when I met Brian, and we're just so used to handling things. And I think we just get into like this frame of mind, sort of like, well, why complicate life even more than it already is? Because you were traveling for work. I was traveling for work at that time when I met Brian. And it's just like, when I was dating, I said, oh, happiness, she says, spot on, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. When I was dating, I went into it with the mindset of, well, I don't really want to get married again. I just want to have some fun. I'd been married for years and it wasn't a lot of fun, to be honest with you. And I thought, I'm just going to have some fun. I can financially take care of myself. I have great friends, great kids. Like, I'm just going to have fun. And about, I don't know how many months into it, wasn't a long time, I met Brian, and the rest is history.
I think it's funny you say that, because every time Shannon's my husband's name, and he'll say, well, I don't know how I ever lived without you, because, of course, when we're driving, I always have to tell him what he's doing wrong or how to go somewhere. And he's like, I don't know how I manage every day without you. I don't know how I've managed 55 years on this planet without you telling me what to do. But it's, I think that there are, I think that when you have a career, I do remember telling him at one point, I don't need you, but I want you.
Yeah.
And then I will tell you, in the 10 years that we've been married, I realized, no, I do need him. But I need him for completely different things than what I thought I needed a man for, right? And so I needed him. I'm very flighty. Like, so So in my career, my personal, in my career, I'm very organized, methodical, very successful, you know, type A, driven, set a goal, achieve a goal, set a new goal, right? And so I could run a tight ship as a single mom at home with kids. But I in my personal life, I tend to be flighty, and you know, Shannon calls me his free spirit because
So you're the one that leaves the gas cans on the back of the truck as you drive away?
no, I would not leave my no, I wouldn't leave my gas cans. But I would, like, I like to go have fun, and I'm very I'm a risk taker. So I can't tell you how many businesses I've started. I always kept my corporate career, but I would go start a business because I needed a creative outlet. And so I'm always trying to come up with something different or new or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And so what I need Shannon for is not what I thought I needed a husband for. What I need him for is he's the stability in my life. And he's the, my dad, I'll never forget it. It was one of those like moments in my life that I was like, wow, I never thought of it this way. But I remember when Shannon and I got married, my dad has since passed, but my dad was sitting there watching me sit on the couch with him. And later that night, he said, you know, Rob, it's really nice to see you get to be a girl. And I'm 40 something years old, right? And I thought, wow, but it was the vulnerability that he saw that I got to, you know, like all the weight and the pressure. And I had a partner, and I had never had a partner. And I have a really good partner who's very safe and who's trustworthy. And he lets me go be flighty. Yeah. He lets me go be flighty, but then he pulls me, you know, back down into, and so it's like, wow, it was this whole new balance. And anyway, it was great. It's great being married. It's great being married in this season and having all the experiences that I've had to really appreciate, you know, what this is.
I do know. So how do you think, I guess this is just going to be like, we're just going to speculate, but how do you think going through menopause, because you went through it pretty early, how do you think that affected the way you guys like communicated, the way your responses were to things? Because I've noticed a difference in myself, and I know Brian has. Like this person who has always been like very, and I'm still pretty conflict avoidant, but someone who would usually just like be quiet and kind of just, you know, I'm not quiet as much anymore as I used to be. So did you experience some of that as well, like going into your relationship with Shannon?
I don't know. So menopause snuck up on me. And I literally went from, I think I was about 45. And I went from normal, like just normal Robin to menopause. Like, and so maybe I had menopausal symptoms that I didn't recognize because it literally snuck up. And so I don't know, and I've researched now because I'll tell you, ever since I went through menopause, like in a month period of time, everything has changed. But primarily it's what I've recognized is my energy levels are just not what they used to be. My weight gain is like, it doesn't even seem to matter. Like, I swear to you, if I went on Survivor and had to starve to death, it doesn't matter. I would still pack on the weight. So sex drive, of course, is completely diminished. I tell Shannon, I'm sorry, I feel like I bait and switched him. But you know, I don't know about it. My menopause, it just hit me so quickly that I didn't even recognize it. And then I think now that I'm living with it, I recognize, oh, maybe this is because I did go through menopause so fast. You know,
Yeah. And you didn't have like a hysterectomy or anything that threw you into menopause.
No.
Because I hear that from a lot of the women who had a hysterectomy, like they really don't know what their symptoms are all about because they just stopped having a cycle when they had their hysterectomy. And so they didn't have that like year of waiting to say, oh yes,
Yeah.
I'm officially in menopause now. So for them, there was no markers or anything, you know, they were still getting their cycle regularly and, you know, but yeah, I've noticed the same when you and I were talking about this at the wedding, just, you know, the weight gain, you feel like you look at food and, you know, might as well just attach it to your hip or something because
Exactly.
it's ridiculous. But I also hear a lot of women complaining about the sex drive thing. And I didn't get a chance to tell you about the testosterone. I'm going to have a doctor on the podcast in a few weeks. Who's going to talk all about like hormone replacement therapy, like a more natural hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
So make sure you listen in.
I'll listen to that.
Yeah.
I've actually thought maybe I should be sneaking some of Shannon's hormone, testosterone vitamins off of it.
There you go. Yeah, men have the same thing. It's just, you know, there's a couple of things at play with men. Like, first of all, they don't talk about it. Like women, we're much more willing, most of us are much more willing to share, like reach out to a girlfriend and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Did you struggle with this?
Yeah.
But men are going to say, hey, dude, I don't feel like having sex as much. You know, are you having the same problem?
Exactly.
So, yeah, but they struggle too. And this doctor and I, we go into that a little bit. We don't talk about the men as much, but it's called andropause, and a lot of men suffer with it. And yeah, I think it all kind of plays together in like the communication and the frustrations. And if you didn't start out as good communicators, like the chance that you're going to hit it and go with it in midlife are probably
You know what? I think about like midlife marriage. If you think about, Shannon says we've packed an entire marriage. We've packed an entire life into the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I have thought about when you bring up menopause, like that never has even been on my radar as something that could be affecting, you know, why I want to sleep and why I never even thought about it, because I'm looking at this thinking about getting married at 40 or thereabouts, a little bit younger. I think oh my gosh, he retired from his career. I retired, or I didn't retire. I changed careers after a 17-year career. And so he retired. I changed jobs. He moved here. We had 4 kids. We had 3 exes. We had the whole blended family, the new stepdad, so we had for the first time ever in our life, in my family, before Shannon came into the family, we had a strong male figure that was messing up the whole order that we had going on. Rightfully so. He was trying. And so there was such a state of chaos for the last, you know, I would say, it's gone up, you know, it's been like this, but like the whole thought of menopause and oh, by the way, I'm going through menopause also. And like that never even touched my radar because we had so many other stressors that it, maybe I did have all this menopause stuff. I couldn't even recognize it from all the other, just chaos that was going on for the past 10 years.
Mine was very obvious. And I wonder sometimes if stress almost makes some women's symptoms worse because, you know, a lot of the same stuff you're talking about, the blended families, traveled for work, you know, we built a house, you know, we did all these things. We have lived a lot of life in the last 10 years as well. But the thing that was probably the most telling for me was, we would be driving down the road in the middle of the winter in Arizona, which, you know, in January, we still get cold in Arizona. And all of a sudden, the window would go down and he'd just look over. And I would just be like, over there dying. So mine was very obvious. And And even now, like one of the things that's so different for us is, we're both very affectionate people, and, which is not hugely different from my other two marriages, but it lasted longer. Like, how it wears off quicker. And for me and Brian, it's just never really worn off. I think this is here to stay. But when you're in menopause and someone is right here at your neck, like breathing there, and you're trying to sleep, it doesn't work out very well. Oh,
That's hilarious. Well, I've always been, so that's funny. I've always been hot natured. And so people say, did you have the hot flashes or were you hot? Yeah. To be honest, I've been hot. My mother blames it on a really high fever. This is true story. My mom says that when I was a little kid, I had a really high fever, like crazy high fever, have to go to the emergency room. And she said, Rob, your body temperature never went back to normal after that high fever. And so I've been hot my entire life.
Really?
Yeah. So we keep our bed. It's so funny. If you come to my house, it's hilarious. My mom, my aunt, my girlfriends, they will bring jackets and they will grab blankets to sit in our house.
I've actually been to your house and you weren't there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's a story for another day.
And so my house is on 67 degrees.
Oh my God, our thermostat is 78 for this air conditioner. 78.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm hot. I'm hot. I'm going to tell you, I'm sweating right now. I'm way hotter. Like going through menopause, I feel like, and I have no proof of this other than the fact that I sweat now, and I never used to sweat, but like I used to go work out at the gym and just barely break a sweat. And I mean, I was exercising. Now I walk out in the desert for 30 or 40 minutes. I come back soaking wet, and it's really, yeah, it doesn't feel very like.
I can tell you my bedroom temperature is 67 degrees and it stays on 67, and Shannon is freezing to death.
Kind of sounds like heaven.
But anyway, I've always had that hot body temperature. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't even know, aside from getting fat, not having any energy, and a lower sex drive, and maybe it is some of the moody. My job has always been so stressful that I think I honestly have been operating in a fight or flight space for so long that even if the stress is adding to the menopause symptoms or what, I don't even think I would recognize it.
Yeah.
Because I've just been like, a friend of mine asked me the other day, she was like, I was talking about work, and she was like, well, why don't you quit? Like, why do you keep doing all these stressful, and I'm like, that's never entered my mind. Like, this is what I know to do. This is what I'm good at doing, right? I thrive in this environment, and it's all that I know, and I love it.
Yeah.
And so
it's funny. I coach a lot of women who get to midlife, and they do start to question a lot of things. It can be the woman who didn't really have like a quote unquote career, but just had a job that devoted so much of her time to herself, her family and her husband. And then all of a sudden the kids don't need them anymore. And then they go, oh, I could literally reinvent myself in this part of my life. And they do. And it's exciting.
That's cool.
And it's fulfilling.
I want to reinvent myself too. In the next season. Like whenever that season happens, I guess it'll be when the kids get out of high school and they're in college and they're, launched. I guess that'll be the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. You still don't have an empty nest. How old are your youngest?
Yeah, my youngest are 15 and 14. I have a sophomore in high school and a freshman in high school. So so we see, like, we're just looking right over the little
gonna fly up on you.
Yeah, we can see it.
How do you think you'll feel when you get there?
I don't know. Even going from 4 to 2, has been, I honestly just, the laundry is less, the food is less. I mean, they're boys, so they eat a lot, but, the driving, I used to be, when I had 4 at home by myself, I would be in the car for 2 or 3 hours at night driving each person to all the different things after working all day, flying back home from India to go make it to some performance. But I, now just having 2 to do that for, it's almost like, wow, this is pretty easy. And then I can't imagine, I'm already, thinking, I can't imagine not having just the 2.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to all the things that I want to do. And I've got that creative side. I think that's why I've started so many different businesses as I worked in corporate America, is because I always need an outlet.
Yeah.
And my husband has found, he wants to go fishing and he wants to go hunting and he wants to go do those kind of things. And I'm like, it's kind of hitting me that, Robin, all those things that you've wanted to do that you haven't had the time to do, you actually have the time to do it. You need to start doing it.
Yeah, I really do. You really do.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because when I met Brian, my youngest, Maddie, was 12. And I said, well, I'm going to date, but if I got into a serious relationship, it would definitely not be with a man that had children. And I did. I dated a man who didn't have children, and it was awkward because he didn't understand that Maddie came first. Maddie had to be, she was still a child. She was 12. So, and I traveled a lot for work. So when she was with me, she was my number one priority. And someone that doesn't have kids doesn't understand that. And then I dated another guy who had one son, and he just had this very odd relationship with his ex-wife and his son. And I was like, I'm not going to get mixed up in all that. And then I met Brian, and I was like, oh my gosh, 3 kids. Like literally, like my dreams of an empty nest just went to the wayside. But no, it's been interesting. It's been interesting, and I'm sure Shannon feels the same way about helping you with this last part of the kids' life. Like, it's challenging sometimes, but it just, I don't know, it's worth it. It's worth it.
It is worth it. It's I was looking at I didn't realize, I was looking at the comments. I didn't know that divorce rates are high. I wonder if divorce rates are high during menopause because it also happens to coincide with the time that people can, I know a lot of folks that don't get divorced while their kids are at home. And then they wait until the kids leave, and then they end up getting divorced. So I wonder if that statistic has anything to do with menopause, or if it really has to do with the fact that they wanted to get divorced 15 years earlier, but they just waited.
Yeah,
until,
that's a good point. I think they call it gray marriage. I'm trying to go back here and see some of these comments. So Happiness joins me every week, and she's from the Philippines. She says, ironically, with this toxic masculinity and the persistent idea that feelings are a female thing, we will continue to bear the burden of men's emotional lives too. Hormones are extremely powerful, so maybe it's not a coincidence that divorce rates are higher during menopause. Emotionally, it can be very traumatic and damaging, but the right understanding and more conversation about menopause will be very helpful. Just some random thoughts. Thank you, Happiness. I always appreciate your random thoughts. They're very much welcome.
So I see Lisa. So let me tell you. So Lisa is on. She is a cousin of mine, and it's so funny. I watch what she's doing. She and her husband. I think they probably married later in life too, but they have an RV. And they travel to all these places, and they're like, okay, we're going to go to North Carolina for this. Anyway, I see her on, and it just,
Hi, Lisa, Robin's cousin.
I am so, I watch that, and I just daydream. Like that is.
We've talked about this.
Oh my gosh.
Your idea.
I am daydreaming about that. I have another friend just quit her job. They bought an RV. They've been gone, I think, for 3 weeks. South Dakota and Arizona, like going down to the New Mexico, the balloon festival. I'm just like, that's what I want to have the freedom to do those kind of things, and I don't want to wait until I'm 70.
I know, I hear you, girl. So I do this game every week at the end of my time with my guests. It's a company called Pod Decks, and he has a few different decks here that you can buy. There's a code that I can offer to anybody who wants to buy them. They're kind of fun, and you know what? Your cousin who does the RV, like those long times in the car, these are conversation starters. Sunday afternoon dinner, it's fun. And as many conversations as you and I have had, we still don't know a ton about each other. So we're going to learn a couple of new things about each other today. So I'm going to throw the question out.
Okay.
You answer it, and then I'll answer it, okay?
Okay.
And this is the WTF deck. So because we're family.
I was on a conference call today, and someone made a comment, and I got a text message in the background, WTF, because somebody made a horrific comment. Anyway, it's funny.
Well, we'll hope these aren't too horrific. We'll hope they're appropriate for the audience, but we're all midlifers, so it should be okay. All right. Oh gosh, I don't even know the answer to this one. What's the most imaginative insult you can come up with?
Oh my God.
I know. I'm not even good at being mean to people.
I'm not either. I will say that I did tell my 15-year-old today that he was trying too hard.
What does that mean? Because I hear people say that, and I'm like, I really question what that means.
So he's 15, right? And he's at that puberty and trying to figure out, like, he's kind of trying to figure out his brand, right? And so he's experimenting with clothes, and he's experimenting with different hairstyles, and he's experimenting with just his brand, and so he wore these silly sunglasses. He bought these sunglasses and he wore them to school today, and some kids made fun of him, and he got in the car today when I picked him up from school, and his brother was saying that, you know, kids are making fun of you for wearing the sunglasses. And I didn't say anything, and I could tell that he was wanting my thoughts. And I waited, and I said, you know, bud, I just think you're trying too hard.
Did he take it as an insult, though?
Yeah.
He did. Oh.
So, and he was like, well, Mom, I don't really care. And I'm like, no, you do care. And that's okay to care.
Yeah.
But you're trying too hard.
Yeah.
And so, anyway. So that's the best insult. That's not very good, but
I very much refrain from insulting people for the most part, but I'm probably meanest to my husband, ironically, in lieu of our conversation today.
Aren't we always?
Because you know, he came home early today because he came back from Alaska last night. Didn't get home till 12:30 in the morning, and so neither one of us slept very well, so we were both kind of tired today. And when he came home early to lay down for a little bit, and I lay down with him, and I said, what did you eat for lunch today? meaning your breath stinks, honey. That was my nice way of saying that. Okay. I'm all red just from being mean.
Right.
Okay. Oh, yeah, we're not going there today. You and I are going to talk somewhat about that in our podcast interview, so I'm not going to talk about that right now.
Okay.
Can you impersonate anyone famous?
No.
Me either.
I can't do impersonations.
No. In one sentence, how would you sum up the internet?
A waste of time.
You know what? I like that. I'm going to add to it. Waste of time. And I'm going to say license to be mean and unkind for no reason.
Yeah. You know, maybe we're mingling internet and social media.
Yeah, that's true.
If you think about the internet in its original form, it was fantastic. It was to get data and information sharing to the masses, and that was all great. But then the social media aspect of it has really, I didn't know, because I'm just not on social media a lot. And I didn't know about the Facebook and Instagram thing. I didn't know that they went down.
Oh, with the blackout? You didn't know about it?
No, I didn't know. Which I'm kind of happy. Like, okay, that makes me feel pretty good. But anyway, when I logged on and I saw all these people saying, what did you do all day without Facebook and Instagram? Anyway, I just think it's a waste of time.
You like life. I just did life.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed our conversation today. I can't wait for our podcast conversation.
Me too.
Let's get that scheduled. Thanks so much for being here with me today, Aunt Robin.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
All right. Well, we need to get together soon. I want to see that new lake house that you guys have. I heard Kaylin and Logan had a wonderful time.
Good.
So
Good.
we will get that planned.
Okay.
All right. Love you.
I love you too.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. If you'd like to continue the conversation, come on over and join our private Facebook group, What Women Want Today. I'd love to hang out with you some more there. Any resources mentioned in today's episode will be in the show notes. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at What Women Want Today Podcast, or visit my website at whatwomenwanttoday.com. Please remember to subscribe, download, and share. Leave me a review. It helps other amazing women find the show and become a member of our community. One last thing for you today. You are not alone. You are worthy of love and a fulfilled life. Now it's time to go after it.